How many people have heard of Brad Martineau in this room? Raise your hand. Yeah, I'm glad that he is going to have a warm reception then. Brad is a good, close, personal friend of mine. And when we sat down about a month and a half ago, probably before the event, and I said, man, I've heard your talks. And they're great. They really are. If you've ever heard him talk about how he builds businesses and how he systematizes businesses, you ever seen him whiteboard? My handwriting's terrible. There's like no way I could ever do that. But you ever see how he works out everything in his brain? It's majestic. But one of the things that I've asked him to do is I said, Brad, I really want you to share something different. I want you to show that this isn't all easy and it's not all about the scale and just getting there. And all these people out here are going to want to grow their business. Everybody out here is going to want to scale their agency. But what we need is the story about how you actually had to scale back. We needed the story about how he used to have 2 multi-7-figure businesses, okay? And how he had to scale back from that. And that's a vulnerable story to tell. It's not the rock star, I'm the shit story. This is like, hey, I'm kind of shit story, okay? And I think that's the important piece. That's going to be an interesting moment to give you the, hey, I failed story and this is what happened, but here's where I'm going, right? So, and also, if you've never heard Brad's like one of the most generous people I've ever met in my life, giving so much of his time, literally giving things away. So I'm assuming that he's probably going to do something very similar today. And every once in a while, he's kind of funny. Every once in a while, sometimes, okay? So I'm really excited. You're in for a treat. Can you do me a big favor? A huge round of applause. Let's help bring Brad Martineau to the stage.
So where's my clicker? All right. So man, how's it going? All right, so you guys know that, so I got it, I'll get it. I need you to work your magic over here. All right, did you guys know that when you come into an event and somebody's speaking, you enter into an unofficial contract? Are you guys aware of this? Let me tell you how it goes. My job as the speaker is to say something valuable, try and be funny, apparently only occasionally though, got to work on that, and keep you entertained and have you leave with something that will make a difference in your life. But you guys have a job too. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. Your job is to make me feel like I should be more confident in myself. So what that means is when I make jokes, your job is to laugh. We're getting the game. And when I ask questions, so here's the deal. Like I teach a Sunday school class at church. I've got 5 kids. Like I'm not afraid of awkward silence. If I ask a question, they're usually not rhetorical. There's going to be a lot more value created in the interaction that happens over the next 45 minutes than me just monologuing, because spoiler alert, I already know what's on the slides. So this is not for me, and I already lived through the fun that he just described. So what I want to talk about today is this idea of scale back to scale up, a potentially slightly, maybe hypothetically counterintuitive approach to growth and scale. Because I think growth and scale are really interesting concepts, right? Everybody says like we're supposed to pursue that. Anybody ever heard that before? You got to grow, you got to scale, right? We think we want it. We sacrifice for it. Anybody sacrifice for growth and scale? Anybody currently sacrificing? We're going to have to pick up this like involvement game because my confidence is going to drop through the floor. It's going to get really scary in a second. But what I've noticed is that growth and scale bring this partner. It's like they're married passionately to this partner called chaos. Anybody ever experienced that before? Yeah. And sometimes it's not the right thing. So we're going to go like, this is what we're going to do. I have nothing to sell you. I have no way to capture you as a lead to put you into a funnel. I have no way to monetize anything out of this presentation. I'm just going to tell you my story that I went through in having to scale back one of my companies, intentionally choosing to scale back one of my companies. And I think in that what could happen for some of you is you might get some permission to make a decision that's been sort of floating there, to make a change in your business that will ultimately change your life. And for some of you, there'll be lessons that are like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I don't let that happen so you can learn from my dumb mistakes and keep yourself on the right path as you grow and scale. So this is kind of more about how to do that without having to get lost in all the chaos. Sound fair? Okay. All right, I'm going to throw out an invitation. So we have less people because everyone's straggling back in for lunch. This will be way more intimate and way more fun the closer you are. So if you want to, I'm going to invite you to come up. I'm also not going to be that person that stops and waits for everybody to come up, so I'm not going to be that guy. But I'm going to invite you to come up so we can have a little bit of a conversation. I don't bite, and I'm not going to throw anything. Okay, so real quick, let me give you my backstory. Brad Martineau, I'm the CEO and Chief Baller at 6th Division. I picked Chief Baller because if I had to pick a title, I figured I might as well have fun with it. Anybody not know what baller means? I've had this before? Okay, we're good. Good. We're like a hip audience. I like this. All right. So emails, Brad at 6th Division. Here's what I do at 6th Division. And this is not what I'm talking about today, but what we do at 6th Division is we help people design amazing client experiences end to end and then make them automatic. So who was in here with Rich and Roland yesterday when they talked about it, client experience, and they talked about how you got to extend marketing past the sale and you got to extend experience all the way up until you capture a lead? We are experts in designing, documenting, and defining that and making it easy. There may be a chance for us to partner or something. That's a whole separate conversation. So we're not talking about that. So we'll take that off the table. Personally, a couple things to note about me. I wear hats, I love basketball, and I have these kids running around my house. There are 5 of them. I'll go through the jokes that I get. Yes, there are 5. Yes, it is crazy in my house all the time. Yes, I do know how it works. Just in case anybody, we got like a post-lunch lull. I usually get more laughs out of that one. That's usually a little bit better. Question real quick. Last sort of housekeeping thing. I want to get into some content. Who has kids? Raise your hand. Raise them high. Got it. So you guys go to events. When you come home from an event, your kids run up to you, they throw their arms up, and what do they say? Somebody said, I miss you, which is not true. There's never been a kid that's ever said that before. What do they say? Okay, now this is the moment of truth. Raise your hand again high if you have kids. Okay, I want you to keep your hand up. So hold on for a second. Keep your hand up if, when you went to an event, you went to the booths and you tried to take home their lame swag as the gift that you were taking home to your kid. I want you to keep your hand up. Okay, so I tried that one time and it failed. So in a dual attempt to help you out a little bit and also to bribe you to like me while we're here, I bring gifts for you to take home to your kids. Now, there's a game that's about to be played. And he or she who learns the game first will win. That's sort of how this whole thing goes down. All right, so here's what we've got. We've got, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she's got a very pretty dress. It's like half, never mind, I'm not even going to attempt it. So there's that. We've got a Spider-Man versus Venom Lego set. By the way, if you take the Lego set, you acknowledge and release me from all liability when you jack your foot up in the morning, when you step on it. That's not my fault. All right, we got some slow learners. Somebody is going to figure out this game. What I also have is I've got some JoJo fashion headphones. He or she who figures out the game first will win. I do not explain the rules. All right, we've got the ATAP walker. What are we waiting for? All right, and last but not least, this is my favorite. This is not for your kids unless you choose to give it to your kids. So I have a Nerf rival pistol. There's 2 of them, and if anyone's ever played anything with Nerfs, you know that you need backups. So there's also backup. We got 25 extra darts in here. We have a game in my house. It's called Kids Run. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Prometheus. Here, you can figure that out. I don't know if you've seen the Prometheus, but it's an fully automatic. We call it the third parent in our house, and I'm not joking. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see stuff of me shooting the kids. So have I successfully bought you love and affection? Okay, so 2 things. 2 things real quick that I want to hit on. Number 1, so that's fun, and it can be cute, and we can laugh and everything, but let's not miss the point. As we're growing our business, I'm gonna pick on the 2 guys that were standing right here. Because what they did is they got right here and they were looking at the thing that they wanted and they just stared at it. And I want you to stop and just think for a second in our businesses and in our lives, how often are we literally standing right next to the thing that we want, but for whatever reason we don't just reach out and grab it? Like, that mindset is not going to get us to the success that we want. Now, the other thing I want to talk about while I show this is, so Chris Rock makes a joke. He says, when you go on a date with someone for the first time, anybody heard this joke? When you go on a date with someone for the first time, you don't go on a date with that person, you go on a date with that person's representative. Okay, let it sink in. It's true and we all know it. Now, the tendency, and the reason why I bring that up and the reason why I'm showing you this picture right here is because the tendency is when we come to events like this, any event, we show up with our representatives. We've got to do a little bit of posturing. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I've noticed that 98.3%, it's a made-up stat, of people that get up and ask questions, are they really asking a question, or are they trying to bake and seed the question with all of the cool things that they did? We show up with our representative. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying let's recognize we show up with our representative. And guess what speakers do by default? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get up here and we're supposed to bring our representative so everything looks really, really, really cool and show you all the really amazing things that we've done, right? Here's the challenge. When we live and lead with our representative in environments of learning, it hinders all possibility. So my invitation for you for the next, half an hour we got or something, is I want you to take off your representative, and I want you to package it up, and I want you to put it in your backpack, or just put it on the chair next to you. And I'm going to do the same thing. So here's the reason why I have this picture. One last laugh, and then we'll get into some real stuff. So anybody have 5 kids? Anybody have 4 kids? So you guys are looking at this, and you're like, he is full of it. That is not what it's like to have 5 kids. Am I right? So this is the representative Martineau family picture. This is what Martineau family pictures are actually like. And they're conniving and scheming. Okay, let's dive in. Let's talk about scaling back to scale up. So I want to draw a picture. You're not going to want to look at that. There's no other value on the slides for a little bit, so you're going to focus right here. So I want to draw a picture, and I want to get some context around what we're going to talk about. Here's how I break down and organize business in my brain. There's essentially 4 components. And I call this the small business stack. So this is the thing that I came up with that I created, and it was really, really, really helpful to organize all the thoughts around business. And I want to draw this so that we have context about what we're going to talk about. At the very foundation of your business sits you as the leader. You are the core foundational component of your business. So you go along and you've got this idea of how you can go impact people and how you can make an impact for yourself, right? Some might call that you have this vision of what you can do in the world. Now the vision it's a combination of this purpose, this thing that you're really excited about, all the way to this financial model that says you can actually go make money. That's all the stuff that lives in vision. Now, once we have a vision, what can we go do? We can go build a team around it. Like now, we got to go get some people. Maybe it's full-time people, part-time people, contractors, doesn't matter. We can go build a team around it. You guys tracking with me? Yeah? You guys recognize what we're talking about here? Okay. And then what's the last thing? Like our business sort of needs clients, right? It is my contention, it would be another presentation to walk through this whole thing, but it's my contention that any conversation that you ever have around business will fit into one of these 4 buckets. Now, what I want to notice here and look at is the foundational component that is you as the entrepreneur. Let's just acknowledge and accept the reality that your business will never grow more than you. It cannot grow past you. And sometimes in our quest for scale and growth, we get all excited and hopped up on all the things that we're doing up here with our team and with our clients that we crush ourselves and we forget to have ourselves grow along with it, which is why sometimes it is necessary to scale back, to scale up, because we got to scale back to create space for us to become, like think about it, if you're going to build a skyscraper and then add 10 stories on top or 30 stories on top, what would you start with first? I'm going to go shore up the foundation, then I'm going to go build the layers on top. So we got to make sure that we're growing this thing together. And what I'm going to talk about today are some of these elements that sit inside vision. So what I want to do is just share some details from my story. But first, I want to tell me if this sounds familiar. I want to make sure that we're on the same page, because if this doesn't relate, then I'll just stop and we can make jokes or something. So tell me this relates. As we go try and put all this together to make a business, tell me if you guys have ever heard things like this. I don't know. I've heard ideas. You guys ever heard that you should have like a purpose in your business? Never heard that? Okay, how about mission? Values? Yeah? You should have a dream. Anyone heard that before? How about products and services? You should package everything up into products and services, and then you've got, finances you got to worry about, and then hiring, and then you got to manage the people you hire. You got to have some operational things in place. You got to fire. Anyone ever had to fire people? You got to go get clients, and you're supposed to try and balance it all. Anyone ever? Does that sound familiar? Okay, so what do we do? Here's what we do. So we go out and we're like, all right, cool. I'm going to go get software because software is going to make my life easy. So we go out to get software. There's only a new piece of software, every 37 minutes that's going to change our life? Is that what that's what I found? I think Friday at 11:37 is the release date for the new life-changing piece of software. So we go out and there's tools to help us with our clients. And then we've got tools that are going to help us with our projects, and we've got tools to organize. I don't know, you guys use any of these tools? Okay, yeah, you could track them with me? We're on the same page? Because if not, then the rest of this presentation is a waste. Okay, got it. And then, hey, we should get some people to help us, right? Like we should have some consultants or whatever. So we go out and we've got business coaches and we've got bookkeepers, we've got accountants, we've got attorneys, we've got recruiters, Facebook groups that we're a part of, team members that want to talk to us. We've got all these, yeah? Sound familiar? Okay, tell me if this feels familiar. So you get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed, if unchecked, turns into what? Turns into I'm freaking pissed, right? And if we don't check that, what does it turn into? Turns into this. I'm done. Who's been there? Raise your hand high. This is the put your representative down. I'm done. Usually for me, it's between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and I usually have talked myself off a ledge by 7 o'clock, whatever, when I get up. I'm like, okay, we'll give it another go. I want to tell you about an experience, though, that was a little bit, that took a little bit more to recover from that. So I'm going to read you out of my journal, if you're all right with that. I'm going to hope I can make it through it, because this is, okay, this is January 19th, 2017. I'd pulled up to work, stopped the car in the parking lot. I just dropped off my kids at school, parked. I'm sitting there, and this is the journal entry. So the last couple of months, and in particular this last week, have been really interesting. In short, I've had some serious doubts about whether I provide any real value in the world. I've doubted my ability to lead 6th Division. I've doubted my ability to lead my marriage to Bridget. I've doubted my ability to raise my children. Also, for whoever might read this, me included, this is not a false humility sort of admission where I'm pandering for sympathy. I don't play that game. This was an honest, genuine, I want to scream and run away and give up feelings and emotions. I've never been there. I attempted to do a lot of self-work, and even then I doubted my own conclusions. Anyway, the point is a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of paralysis, a lot of wanting to give up and go back to easier days. Here's the worst part. I knew it wasn't true, but I couldn't do anything about it. It reminded me a lot of the time I went scuba diving for the first time. Everything was totally cool until I got into the water. As soon as we were about to go down, my body started freaking out. It was crazy. I wasn't actually scared, but my body was reacting like it was. It was the first time in my life I could remember that I could see what I needed to do. I was willing in my mind to do it, but I couldn't control my body to make it happen. This has been one of those experiences. I consciously understood what to do, but I couldn't get my mind and body to respond. I think I got a little taste of what hopelessness actually feels like, and I don't like it at all. Anyway, all of that is the backstory leading up to this. This morning, I dropped the 3 boys off at school. I felt okay last night going to bed, although if I'm being honest, I could feel the fingers of doubt and fear lingering just outside my consciousness. This morning felt about the same. Then I got into the car to take the boys to school, and the feeling started to come again. I dropped them off, and as I was driving to work, the doubt and fear came full force again, which basically means my mind found itself in a state of, I have all these responsibilities, and I can't actually do them, and I have no idea what to do. That sort of captures it. Anyway, I pulled up to the office, and I literally wanted to cry, scream, run, go home and sleep. Basically anything except going to the office. So here's what I did. I don't know if you guys are spiritual or whatever, but here's what I did. I prayed in my car out loud for the first time. Like, for real for the first time. As a man talketh to another man, also probably the first time. It went something like this. This is mostly verbatim. Hey, God, I need help. For real. I don't even know what to ask for, but I don't see how I can lead my company, lead my marriage, lead my kids, or lead anything if I can't lead myself, so I could really use some help here. Please. Okay. So, that's January 19th, about 8:45 in the morning. Now, that's the real Brad. That's the dialogue that we all have. You know, like we live in a movie, and we tell people our movie. What we don't tell them is like the little side feed of what's going on inside our head. You guys know what I'm talking about? So let me tell you what the movie was, because that was the side feed. So this is Representative Brad. I had pulled up to the office in my Audi. I was walking into a 5,500 square foot office that's pretty dope. I had a team of 15 people there. We were doing anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 a month in revenue. On a personal side, we were a year into building our dream home. It was like $1.5 million house, 6,000 square feet, 2/3 of an acre. You walk in the front room and the ceilings go up to like 20 feet. The rest of them were like 15 feet. Like, it was awesome. Representative Brad, it was awesome. Real Brad was getting crushed. I want to just call back to this, was getting crushed. And what was tearing at me was the step between, like I had this representative that I knew wasn't real, and I had something over here that I knew was real, and I didn't know what to do with it, and it sucked for a while. Like, I wish it was like, oh, it all changed that day. Happy-go-lucky. No, that's not the way that it went down. So as I sat in that and I tried to work on that, I came across a story that I had read or I had heard before, and I just forgot about. I don't know if you guys ever heard of. You heard of the story of the fisherman that meets the businessman in Brazil, from the book of the Alchemy? So let me just recount it real quick. There's a fisherman in Brazil, and he goes out fishing, and he's coming in, and there's a businessman that's on vacation. And he meets the fisherman, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you caught a bunch of fish. How long did it take you to catch the fish?" He's like, "Oh, not too long. I was just out for a little bit." He's like, "Oh, well, what are you doing the rest of the day?" This is in the morning. He's like, "Well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to make some lunch. I'm going to play with my kids. I'm going to take a nap with my wife. And then tonight I'll go out and I'll hang out with my friends. We'll kick it. And then tomorrow I'll go out fishing again." And he's like, "Well, why don't you stay out longer?" He's like, "Oh, I got what I need." He's like, "Okay, hold on. I have a PhD in business management. I can help you. Let me tell you what you need to do. You need to stay out longer and catch more fish so you can go sell them. And then with that money, as you start to save it up, you can hire other people to go fish for you. And then with all those, you can start to build the fleet." And he's like, "Cool, well, what would I do with the fleet?" He's like, "Well, once you have the fleet, you can go open up a headquarters in Sao Paulo, and you can start to build this massive enterprise." He's like, "Cool, what would I do with that?" He's like, "Oh, well, dude, what you do then is you go float it on the stock exchange and you go public and you make a ridiculous amount of money." He's like, "Cool, what would I do with that?" He's like, "Well, here's what you do. You could retire to a village, and you could go fishing in the morning. And then you could come back and you could make lunch, and you could have lunch with your kids and play with your kids, and then you could go take a nap with your wife and go hang out with your friends at night." And he's like, "Wait a minute, aren't I already doing that?" And here's what hit me. Because of where I was, the story hit me differently. And what hit me was maybe the answer that I had been fed, not been fed, that's putting responsibility on somebody else. Maybe the answer that I had taken was that the only way out of this was scale and growth. And maybe what I ought to consider is that I could actually scale back. Maybe scale didn't have to mean bigger. Maybe scale could just mean better. Maybe I could actually scale down, scale back, scale better, so that eventually, if it made sense and it aligned for what I wanted to do, I could scale up. So this analogy is what came out of it for me, is this idea of getting to clothes that fit. So let me describe what this is, and then what I want to leave you with is I want to walk you through, there's 2 questions that help me navigate this, and they're the questions that I keep with me to stay on track. So whether you're in the middle of this right now, or you want to avoid it, I've got 2 questions and then 1 tool as an exercise I'm going to walk you through. So this analogy of getting to clothes that fit, here's what it means. So I wear a large t-shirt. And what I woke up one day and realized is in my business and in my life, I was wearing a double XL. You guys ever worn clothes that are way too big for you? Okay, so let me tell you what my plan was. This was my plan to solve it. My plan was I was going to go to the gym like 3 times a day, and I was going to get swole, and I was going to eat a ton of food, and eventually I'd fit into the double XL. Anyone ever tried that before? Okay. Now, you get that I'm not talking about clothes, right? In the business and in my personal life, I'm like, I'm just going to go harder. I'm going to push to get this. You want to know what that is? You want to know what that's like? Anybody have any ideas? Exhausting. Crushing is a good word to use to describe it. And then one day, and I don't know, most of life's like really powerful moments and thoughts. Usually they're ones like, how did I not see that before? I don't know if that's the same for you as it is for me. And I had this analogy, I'm like, or, you know what I could do? I could just go buy a large shirt. Like I could just get rid of the double XL shirt and I could go buy a large shirt. That would be another very feasible possibility. So that's what we did. So here's what we did. And there's a whole bunch of details in between, and I'm happy to have conversations with anybody about them. I just want to give you like a quick summary because I don't have like 4 hours to go through this. So here's what we did. On the business side, we went into a cutting mode, like clothes that fit. July of 2018, our expenses were just a little bit above $200,000 in expenses. July of 2019, they were $84,444.44. From a personal standpoint, the dream house, by the way, that I got my wife all excited about, who, by the way, is sitting right over there, we sold the house we were living in, we moved into it, and then realized after about 3 months, this is not actually what we want. And so we had to go negotiate with the builder to get out. We turned around and sold it. We lost. I stopped counting. I stopped doing the math at about $100,000. We lost about $100,000, moved out and back into another house that immediately, so here's what it did. What it did is immediately, we shed about $750,000 of debt instantly. Saved about $60,000 to $75,000 a year in cash flow, personal cash flow, immediately. We immediately were able to flip 20% of every dollar we make now goes into an investment account, and we pulled off, and also me and my kids, we have a 1% account that we created that we go actually, like I call it the street corner human project. We stop and go help people because we have money in an account to go do it, because like I'm just going to let go of all of that. It was scaling back both business and personally. So that's like, now look, that's like, oh, that's really cool. It sounds really easy. That was not an easy, I want you to imagine getting your wife excited about a dream home and then be like, hey, by the way, I think we should move. And going from $200,000 in expenses to $84,000 in expenses sounds great when you're like, oh man, that's probably a weight off. It was, and it was a weight to go through it because those are lots of really hard conversations to have. But I was a shell of myself. And remember, who's the foundation of your business? You are. I could not lead the company. I could not lead my family. It's not like I got to just bottle that up and then go home and like, oh, everything's great, but my business sucks. No, like everything sucked. So let me give you 2 questions, and then just like a quick exercise I want to roll through that I think will help you as you go through this. Is that cool? Really, is this helpful? Okay. All right. Okay, question number 1. My dad used to ask this to me all the time growing up. He would say, what do you want to have happen here? But I've shifted. What do I want to have happen here? I mean, when I say he used to ask it all the time, I mean like, like Pavlov did his dog thing, rings the bell, and the dog starts to drool. My dad could start the first half of the syllable of this question, and I would start to roll my eyes. Like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about. You are old and weird. And then I got older, and I realized the power in the statement. I want to be really clear. Notice some things in here. It's what do I want to have happen, not what do I want to do. 2 different questions. What do I want to have happen? What's the outcome? I love this. One of my favorite quotes of all time, Robert Heinlein. In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to daily trivia until we ultimately become enslaved by it. I don't know. Anybody in here feel like that might describe your life? Okay, so in my house, my kids, I've taught this to my kids, what they say, in the absence of clear goals, you become addicted to random crap. Just like whatever, until we become enslaved by it. So this question, I would propose that you recognize that this is a question you should be asking yourself daily. The answer will change. The tool I want to walk you through is how to document it in an effective way to keep yourself in line. Would that be helpful? Okay, so I call this the return. It's part of so inside this, there's a whole program that I put together to help me as an entrepreneur. I call it the small business spine. Everything that I'm doing up here has to be in alignment, so this is the small business spine. This is the base of the spine. It's what I believe is the most fundamental, critical asset that an entrepreneur can have in their business to keep themselves on track is the return. Most of us have something sort of quasi-outlined, but it's not clear, and it was what creates a whole bunch of wobble in the business, okay? So the return answers the question, what's in it for me? But with extreme clarity. There are 3 components to the return: money, time, and then your role and how you want to spend your energy in the organization. And the goal is for us to hit a bullseye right smack dab in the middle and get the ideal money, time, and then our role. That's what we're trying to shoot for. Here's the deal. If we don't have it defined, you will most likely not hit it. And most people don't have it defined with any real level of clarity. So here's what I want to do. I used to start with money, but that jacks the whole process up, so you got to start with time. So this is an exercise. I would suggest that you're writing this down as we go through this. Okay, so time. The question we're trying to answer is like, how much do you want to work? And I want to be really clear. I'm not talking about I want to work like an hour a week and I'm going to go sit on the beach. Like, okay, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. What is an acceptable amount of time to work for you? And do you have it defined with clarity so that when your business starts to get off the rails, you can look at it and you can know, oh, hey, I'm off the rails. I need to go change something. This might be a sign to scale back. So a couple of thoughts for you to consider as you document this. Think-ish. There's been a bunch of these exercises that are like, define your ideal day, define your ideal week, define your ideal month. In my opinion, they're all bullcrap because they don't give you any wiggle factor. The reality is there is no such thing as an ideal day that happens every single day. And then when we don't hit the ideal day, we're like, oh crap, I screwed the whole thing up. Not the case. So we're going to think-ish. We're trying to get like a general target. You want to identify either your ideal day, week, month, quarter, year, or some combination. You don't have to do all of them. It's about how your brain thinks about it. And I'm going to give you an example in a second. You want to set some rules, okay? So some of the rules, like for example, Mike Arcee. Anybody in Mike Arcee's presentation this morning? Oh, no, sorry. He goes this afternoon. You guys weren't. I'm just checking to see if you're awake. That's all. So he has a rule with his kids that anytime he travels, for every day he travels, they have to do a family vacation of equal time. So he just set some rules to make it creative. It kind of backfired because his kids were like, he's like, hey, I'm going to go speak at this thing. Is that all right? They're like, yeah, can you be gone for more days? It's like, this is not how this is supposed to work. And then be real. And what I mean by be real is like I've got 5 kids. My 2 oldest daughters, they dance competitively. Anybody in here have anyone that does dance or gym competitively in your family? Okay, so you know when initially I'm like, we're going to take 4 week-long family vacations. I'm going to go with my wife for 2 times for a week. Yeah, when you have kids that are in dance, you literally have a 10-day window in the middle of the summer between one season and the next season where you might be able to possibly, potentially go do something with your family. So we had to sort of readjust. So you got to be real with this. Otherwise, what happens is when you look at it, you know it's not real and you'll stop paying attention to it, and then you're right back where you started. Another thing about time. So once you write this down, you want to answer the question, why? Why do you want that schedule? What does that schedule get you? And what does it make possible? And the goal here is to be as specific as you can. Okay, so let me give you an example. This is mine. So the schedule, weekly, about 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, no weekends, and a half a day of flex time where it's like I can just do whatever I want. That's like ideal for me. I'm good with that. And the way I look at this is when I get done defining this, I want to look at it and say, if I did that, like if that was the rest of my life, I'll take it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to try and get more or get better, but like I'd sign up for that. Like if I worked Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, had about a half a day, no weekend work, had about a half a day flex in the middle, like I'm cool with that. I am not afraid to work. Monthly, max 2 2-night trips, no travel before 7 a.m. or after 8 a.m. So I speak a fair amount. I want to make sure I'm never gone more than 2 2-night trips. My flight never leaves before 7 or lands after 8. Leaving before 7 messes with the rhythm in the morning. Leaving after 8 messes with the rhythm at night. And it screws with my sleep patterns, and I'm sort of a diva apparently, so whatever. All right, quarterly, 1 week of flex time for vacations, relaxing, and home stuff. So once a quarter, I've got a week-ish, right? So that means I'm going to start planning for that to happen. I'm going to start blocking out the time to make that happen. The why. So this is just like, you just decide it. Notice I didn't do annually. I don't think about my schedule annually. You might. That's totally fine. So I didn't do daily either, because daily's too small of a unit. You might be like, no, I'm very much a day to a month to a quarter. But you've got to have this defined and written. Defined, by the way, does not count if it's in your head. That's not defined. It has to be written on a piece of paper. I mean, I guess technically it could be cardboard or whatever, but it has to be written out of your head. Okay, the why. Here's why I want that. This, by the way, is the most important piece of it. I can play chauffeur to my kids, which means I'll be around them, and it means I'll help bridge it so our life isn't as crazy. This is why I'm trying to do this schedule, because we are basically, like my full-time job is I'm a chauffeur, and then part-time my moonlight is running an agency. I want to be president at Maddie and Peyton's dance comps and conventions. I'm president at my son B plays football, so I want to go Brayton. I want to go to his football practices and games. I'm president at Landon's basketball practices and games. I'm at Cohen's hip hop classes and his skateboard lessons. I am mentally free to lead myself and my family. I have time to serve those in need during the evenings and on the weekends. So like I know why I'm trying to do this. My contention is that you ought to have this written, printed, and posted. We're going to get to that with all 3 of these. If you don't look at these daily, I have a command center in my closet. I almost put a picture in here. My wife's like, don't do that. But I have a command center in my closet to remind myself of this, so I look at it every single day. This is what I'm trying to do. Now, I also recognize that sometimes we've got to work to this. So you might also create an alternate one that says, and here's what I'll do temporarily while I work towards this. But know what we're trying to get to in terms of time. All right, helpful? Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit, if that's all right, because I would like to leave some time for some questions if we can get to at the end. Okay, next up, I want to talk about role. Okay, so your role in the business. This is like, what do you want to be doing in the business? And really what we're talking about is your energy. Because if you think about it, there's only 3 currencies you have to spend in life: time, energy, and money. That's it. And by the way, we only spend those to get those 3 currencies back. We're just trying to make an ROI, that's it. So this one is about energy. So we look at your role in the business. We're going to go through the same thing. What do you see your role being? What do you not want to do in the business? Which roles, because you don't want to do certain things, which roles are you going to have to build around you? And then are there any other elements or rules about the business, about the way you want it to work so that it feeds your energy? By the way, you guys want me to like send these to you? I have no idea how that's going to happen. I have no idea what I'm allowed to do about getting your information to send it to you. I'll be roaming around. If someone somehow figures out I can send this to you. And you can take pictures if you want. I just know that you probably won't look at the pictures again. So I'll send you the slides. All right, so any other elements or rules for the business so that it gives me the energy the way that I want it? Okay, an example. The role, I want to be the external CEO, which means I want to be the face of the company, but I want to have all the operational roles filled. meaning I'm basically not required to run the company, but I'm a valuable asset to the company. I want to be one of the 6 division speakers at events. Like, I like speaking. Sometimes I think I'm good at it. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on whether I'm on stage or off stage. Anyway, I want to contribute to thought leadership, but again, not be required in the details of making sure everything runs. I'm involved in client interactions like group training, group calls. Like, I love working with our clients, but I'm not required to make sure that the thing runs. So if that's the case, here's what I got to have. I got to have like some sort of an integrator, president, COO, GM type role. I got to have a primary money-making type role, which might double as that role. That might be the same role depending on how the business shakes out, but I'm really clear I need that person if I want to get that role. We have client love, so our fulfillment team is called the client love team. We have client lovers that amaze our clients, deliver our products and services. We've got an office glue that is the person that makes the company run like a well-oiled machine. And then we have whatever other contractors we need outside to make sure this works. From a business standpoint, I really like being in person with people. So I want to architect my business to make sure that I'm including in person with people because I really, really like it. I want to have products and services where we get people out to our office as much as possible. I like to go to dinner with our clients. I want to do that as much as possible. There's something magical that happens when you eat a meal with a client. It's just freaking cool. So why? Here's why. I can crush my priorities as a husband and a father because this feeds me. I am way more powerful when I'm creating content, frameworks, and systems, and when I'm speaking and doing all that. Like, operational details is sort of my kryptonite. I'm just really clear about that. I'm really good at the system and the framework. I'm the worst person to hire to make sure it happens on an ongoing basis. I can give you the best system to make it run. You just got to have somebody to run it. I can help grow Plus This and other software companies. So this is the why. I'm really clear what I want my role to be. Like, I know what I'm working towards. Okay, helpful? Good example? Okay. All right, let's go to money. Do money last. If you do money first, what you'll do is you'll sacrifice everything that you believe about time in your role because you'll have set this bar of money. Trust me, I've done this before. That just don't do money first. Okay, so here's money. What do you want to take home? Now, what do you want to take home is a really dangerous question to ask because anybody not want to take home $1 million? Okay, we all want to take home more money. So what we're talking about here when we say take home pay, first off, is we're not talking business revenue. The return document's about you, it's not about the business. If we were going through the rest of the small business spine, we get into the business. That's not what we're talking about. You, take home pay, like it comes into your personal account. How much do you want? And the key here is you want to think floor, not ceiling. Here's what I found. Most entrepreneurs cannot state, like it's almost physically impossible for them to state the number that they want to take home that they would be satisfied with. Because they're so conditioned and addicted to this idea of grow and scale that they can't wrap their head around like, oh no, if I made $250,000 for the rest of my life, I could do that. That would be great. Admitting that there is a minimum number that you want to get to that would work for you does not preclude you from going beyond that number. But if you don't have a minimum number, you have no target, which means you're on a treadmill called more. And that treadmill doesn't ever stop. You don't get a program, a destination in that treadmill. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. So you want to define what is a take-home number, and you just decide on it. For some of you right now, it might be, if I could get 75 grand take-home, that would be freaking awesome. Some of you are like, no, it's 150. Some are like 250. Some are like, no, I'm pushing to 7 figures. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that you get clear on what the number is. Don't pick a pipe dream. So this is not the time to be like, well, I've been making $43,000 a year out of my business for the last 7 years, $1 million next year. No, like, we're not picking a pipe dream. We're going to pick a real number so that this is something that we don't give up on, so it's something that we actually continue to pursue. Also, don't make it arbitrary. If I talk to you and you're like, yeah, I want to make 100 grand, that's probably arbitrary. What I mean by arbitrary is unless you have a personal financial budget that says where the money's going to go, you don't know what money you don't actually know what the number is. And my guess is your expenses are not going to magically add up to $100,000. It'll probably be sort of a random number because you've done the work to get clear on what the amount is that you actually need to create the lifestyle that you actually want. The reason, by the way, we start with time and role first is because we want to make sure that happens. That's the first most important thing. And then we'll go to money. And then I'll go beyond that revenue, that number amount, that money amount. I'll go beyond that so long as it doesn't sacrifice time and my role in the business. Those are the two most important elements. Okay, so then we go, why that number? What does that number get you? What does that make possible for you? And again, we want to be as specific as possible. So here's mine. I'm not going to tell you what my number is because people try and copy stuff like that. It's stupid. I don't know why. I'm not going to tell you. It doesn't matter what my number is. It's arbitrary. Your number might be a monthly take-home, an annual take-home. It could be you're trying to build value. Some people are in a business and they're trying to build value in the business. It's not about income. Great. Whatever it is, define what that target is. Then we go into why. Here's why. Bridget and I are fast forwarding our financial future. When I get to that number, based on what I know my expenses are going to be, we've got a fast forward button on our financial future. Our fun budget runneth over. I like to have a lot of money to play with. It was really hard to walk away from the house. It's really cool to not be in the house. Just like, you get what I'm talking about, right? Mucho family activities, movies, extreme air, Suns games, etc. One-on-one trips with the kids each year. We try and do a one-on-one parent-kid trip each year. I get to go to old man basketball camps. Mom gets to go on our girls' trips. We can consistently be upgrading and decorating our house. Our kids get the best one-on-one coaching and participate in camps and comps. Maddie and Peyton get to go to dance. For Cohen, it's wrestling. For Braden, it's football. For Landon, it's basketball. Like, I know why I want that number, because it's going to create something for me. It's a lot easier to decide to scale back when I know what I'm scaling to. Does that make sense? All right, so this is the target here, is money, time, and our role, and what we're shooting for is a bullseye in the middle. I'm going to challenge you that before you go to work on Monday, take time and do a first version of this. Write it up, put it up on your wall. Bonus tips if you post a picture like on Instagram or something and tag me of what yours is. And if you want to blur out something that you think is too private or whatever, that's fine. But bonus tips, I'm telling you, this is life-changing to give you an anchor for everything else. Again, this is where the business is right here. You're sitting down here. What I just went over is the foundation of the foundation. And if you don't have it rock solid and you don't have it dialed in, you'll do, like Robert Heinlein said, you'll be all over the place, strangely addicted to daily trivia and all the funnels and all the Instagram hacks and all the YouTube hacks and all the things you're supposed to go do that you're supposed to go do, and you haven't actually stopped to consider whether it's going to get you where you want to go. Okay, that's the return document. Helpful? Yes. Okay, so that's question number one. What do I want to have happen here? That'd be a good one to print up. Ask yourself that all the time. What do I want to have happen here? Before you go do anything, what do I want to have happen? What is the result that I'm trying to create here? All right, second question. What if I just didn't do this? This might be the most powerful question. So you guys ever heard this story? You ever heard this analogy? Just look at the picture for a minute. Let it sink in. What does the monkey have to do to get away from the jar? Let go of the banana. I don't know if they've actually done a study. I think this might be one of those wives' tale type study things where they would set traps for the monkey with either a banana or a nut, and the monkey would get trapped and would stay because they wouldn't let go of it. All he has to do is let go of the banana. And I realize that banana is sort of an interesting, weird analogy to be using now. I might have used a different one if I had thought about how it was going to sound in front of a bunch of people. But the question is, what bananas are we holding on to that are keeping us, what banana were the two guys holding on to that kept them from just reaching over and grabbing the Lego set? What are we holding on to that's stopping us from doing the thing that we want? Because as we go to try and pursue everything we want, what we're going to do is we're going to have a ton of options. I don't know, anybody get any ideas today about how they can go make all this stuff happen? Anybody? Yeah, okay. Then we feel when we have an idea, we feel obligated to the idea we have to go do something with it, right? Yeah, no, you don't. You could just let go of the banana and leave it in the jar. So here's just something to consider around this question. Audit your currencies. What are the three currencies again? Time, energy, and money. You should audit them. Where are you spending time on stuff so the question is, what if I just didn't do this? Here's the answer. If the answer is not, it will have a massive impact on me getting to what I set as my return. If that is not the answer, then you just don't do it. And what you'll start to do is you audit your currency and say, okay, I'm spending time on this. If I just didn't do this, and I ignored all the pressure and all the things, all the reasons why I'm supposed to do this, if I just didn't do this at all, would it impact my ability to get my return? If the answer is no, probably not. Guess what you should not do? That thing. Now that takes some guts to be able to say, no, I'm just going to not do it. But I'm telling you, it's just letting go of banana. It just frees up ridiculous possibility in your world. So a couple of ideas for you on this. You got to get to the point where you can decide ruthlessly. You can cut things ruthlessly. So there's a quote, Ryan Holiday in his book, The Obstacle is the Way. I don't know if you guys have read that one. One of my favorite quotes says, take your situation and pretend it's not happening to you. Pretend it's not important, it doesn't matter. How much easier would it be for you to know what to do? This is the kicker. How much more quickly and dispassionately could you size up the scenario and the options? Because we have a whole bunch of emotion when we're trying to decide the thing that we should quit. I was in a training session, and this guy said, here's a really good exercise. Think of somebody else and be like, what would they do? So as we were going through our getting to clothes that fit, I was thinking of Bill Belichick, coach of the Patriots. I'm like, what would he do? Without a hesitation at all, he would just start cutting stuff. Like, nope, done, 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 and done. As soon as you separate yourself from the emotion, the answer usually becomes crystal clear, and you can see the bananas that you're holding on to. I really got to come up with a different analogy besides bananas. Okay, but anyway, you get what I'm talking about. So you decide ruthlessly, and by the way, we went from like 16 people to 9. That's 7 human beings with families that we had to go have a conversation with. You have to decide ruthlessly, and then you execute humanly. I had to decide ruthlessly that for our financial future and everything that we wanted to create as a family, we had to get out of that house. And I had to go have the conversation in a totally different tone. And you don't let the fact that it's hard to execute as a human deter you from the fact that it's the right decision. It doesn't matter if the decision is uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if it's hard. If it's the right decision, it's the right decision, period. And then you go execute humanly. Okay, I gotta go roll through real quick. So, real story. I just want to share this. This was an agency owner. There were 3 partners. This is their story of what they did. So they have 3 partners. They're working like 18-hour days. Anyone? Okay. Taking home like maybe 60 grand. Tax bill. They just before we had our call, they just had a tax bill hit because their accountant sucked. 65 grand. And they're like, "What the frick are we gonna do with this?" So I'm like, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to decide ruthlessly, and we're going to execute humanly, pull up all your expenses. And they're like, well, I don't know where. I'm like, pull them up. We got 2 hours for this call. Pull them up. We started pulling up expenses. I'm like, why do you have 2 offices? Do you need this person, or can this person do this thing? Why are you guys organizing your time this way? And it was like ruthless, like cut. And I'm like, and your job is I want an update by the end of the day. So I got an update. This is the 3.5 week later update that I got back after they went and did this. Hey, Brad, just thought I'd keep you posted about our progress we've made since our chat on March 20th. Since then, we've made over 20 immediate process changes which impacted our expenses and reduced them currently by about $15K a month to $28K, down from $42, $43, including our staff expenses. Massive impact. Now the real fun begins. Why? Why would he say now the real fun begins? There's a weight that's lifted immediately. Now the real fun begins. We can set new targets. You can't set new targets and be creative when you're getting crushed. It's not possible. I'll shoot over an update in 3 months or so. I don't care if you read it, but I felt the need to shoot over the impact your 2-hour call had. It's made the potential to save 190 grand, and we're not working 20 hours a day. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, next update a month later. We let go of our business partner. It was causing our team to not do their best work. We were lacking in his new position and not getting sales. The moment we did that, I took over, sold 3 websites, increased retainers, increased client satisfaction. We found the dead weight in our business. Refined some inefficient processes. We're down 20 months. 2 months later, they had paid off $50,000 of the $65,000 balance on the tax bill. Decide ruthlessly, execute humanly. What if I just didn't do this? If the answer is not, holy crap, it would screw stuff up, just don't do it. Okay, we're going to do a quick recap in like 7 seconds. This sucks. This sucks. Just decide to get to clothes that fit. In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become a stranger loaded daily trivia until we become enslaved by it. So ask the question, what do I want to have happen here? Define your document. Post it so you look at it every single day. Don't hold on to bananas. Decide ruthlessly, execute humanly, and when necessary and appropriate, scale back so you can scale better, so you can scale up. Thank you.
Wow. Hey, stay right here for a second. Stay right there. Every time that somebody can get vulnerable enough to do things and tell you when they suck, and then people still applaud, it's pretty special, right? So I'm going to give one more massive round of applause because thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you, seriously. Love you.